first, what is a Hyperloop? Imagine a capsule similar to an airplane fuselage filled with people or freight, hovering inside a tube and moving really, really fast from one point to the other. Actually, it moves right below the speed of sound. Inside this tube, we create a low-pressure environment. So basically, we have vacuum pumps along the tracks that takes the air out, so that now the capsule can go much faster with much less energy because it doesn't encounter any resistance anymore. The whole system is completely green, so using alternative energy. We're using solar, wind, kinetic energy through regenerative braking, and depending on the climate, even geothermal, to ideally, well, depending on the route, of course, produce more energy than we're actually using. Sorry, this is, oops. But why? Why should we care about what they call the fifth mode of transportation? This is why. Traffic. We spend a lot of time in traffic. A lot of time that, well, we could be productive, or maybe even more important, we could be with the people we care about. Traffic is one of the biggest problems that we have. Traffic is so important that based on where we live, we decide where we work, right? Actually, where I come from, in Los Angeles, based on where you live, there you go, well, you decide who you date. Because if she lives on the other side of the city, it's not going to work out. And then we have this, Beijing on a sunny day. On a bad day, you can't even see your hand in front of your face. So most people think that this is an issue that you have in China or in India, but in real, even here in Europe, you're losing on average 15 months of your life thanks to pollution. So now, of course, transportation is only part of that, but it's important enough for governments to now move over into green modes of transportation. Just jump this one. Let's go. Sorry. Well, then we have the railroad industries. They're literally a dinosaur industry. They haven't changed much. They're still the same like they used to be 100 years ago, basically. These are normal railroad tracks. The distance between those tracks is 1 meter 43.5. Standard gauge. That's how in most part of Europe we're building new infrastructure. Spain actually was very smart and went a little bit larger. But this is where most parts in the world, they build it this way. Anybody here know why? Why is that distance? This is why. The Roman carriage. So basically, in 2017, we're building new infrastructure based on the butt of 2 horses. That's how much innovation we have done in the rail industry. And then it comes to cost, profitability. Actually, there's no rail line, no metro line in the whole world that's profitable. This is an example of the Los Angeles Metro. The Los Angeles Metro makes 76 cents per passenger, and $2.50 are coming from taxpayer money. Now, of course, you might want to say it's Los Angeles and everybody takes a car, that's why you're all standing in traffic, and that's true. But even New York, which is probably one of the most used metros in the world, loses 82 cents per passenger, which comes out to $2.2 billion every year. Germany subsidizes their rail network with roughly 22 billion euros every single year. So the Hyperloop, because of our low operational costs, can actually be profitable in a very short time span. All the routes that we have been looking up to are roughly around 8 to 15 years. So how would our lives change if we would have a Hyperloop? Well, another problem we're having are airports. We're building more and more of them. They're overflowing, right? So with a Hyperloop, we can now connect these airports, and they would become actually terminals, one big airport. Or we can build them much further out and still be there within minutes. When we talk about freight, we can have goods coming from China into Europe within hours rather than within weeks, literally enabling an on-demand economy. But most people get excited about living in one place and working in another. You can live in a satellite city, 150, 200 kilometers outside of the city, buy a much cheaper house, and still be within minutes in the city center and enjoy all the amenities that you have here. All right, how are we doing this? So when we looked at the feasibility of the system, we looked at the technical feasibility, and it turns out the technology already exists. We know how to build pylons, build tubes. We know how to create a vacuum inside a tube. So this is actually a picture of the CERN Hadron Collider in Switzerland. And the vacuum inside those tubes is 100,000 times more difficult to maintain than the one that we are using. And the company responsible for that vacuum is actually part of our team, Leibold Vacuum. Alternative energy is a safe bet. It's getting better and better and cheaper every single year. So today, in California, for example, we're capable of covering our complete energy cost just with solar, with the latest solar technology. But we know tomorrow that's going to be cheaper and even better. But we're doing something else in a completely different way. We're building a company in a completely different way. So normally when you talk about a train or a metro, this is where it's happening, behind closed doors. You hear they're planning something, maybe you hear how much it's going to cost, but that's it. You can't really participate. We do something that we call crowdstorming. And with crowdstorming, what we really do is we question everything. So you see, we have one big advantage. There is no Hyperloop. There are no regulations. We have to create a completely new. We don't have legacy issues. So we can question everything. Things like, do we need a ticket? And not only do we need a paper ticket, but is a ticket the right way to monetize? Because if I can find a way to make more money the more the passenger rides, then a ticket becomes negative. Then I use a ticket only to regulate demand. Think about transportation as a marketing, and I actually monetize on the time the passenger spends inside the vehicle. Or if I look at our business plan and I see that we're spending billions of dollars for pylons, I can just ask the question, here, I give you 200 pylons, they're yours. What are you going to do with them? And it's only asking that question that really gets you amazing ideas. Some are crazy, some are amazing, but it really brings them forward. From things like, let's make them into beehives to let's use them as vertical gardens or electric car charging stations. And it's exactly that. It's just questioning everything. I think that everybody here who takes a train, takes a bus, takes a taxi, knows that you can do those things better. We can have a better passenger experience while the transportation company actually generates income rather than using taxpayer money. Part of that are our virtual windows. You see, we have a problem inside the Hyperloop. We don't have windows because we're inside a tube. So we're developing a technology that uses normal screens, and we're using head tracking to simulate a window. So when you're looking, when you're moving your head, it sees where you're looking, and it shows you with a parallax, in a parallax way, how it might look outside. So now, imagine going through Jurassic World, Terminator Land, Game of Thrones. For you, it's an experience, but for the transportation company, it's actually a way of generating income. So we're working with several entertainment companies on the content here already. All right, why? Why are we working like this? Well, turns out the idea of the Hyperloop is actually not new. It has been around for quite some time. Most people think of Elon Musk, but the idea has been around much, much longer, for hundreds of years. One of the first attempts was in New York, for example, already in 1870. And they built a station and built a track for traveling inside a tube. They wanted to connect New York to San Francisco. And in case you wonder, they didn't make it. But they tried. The first patent for a train inside a vacuum was as early as 1904. And there have been many, many others afterwards. So when we looked at why these didn't succeed, we realized that they were always depending on one company, on one government. So we realized we had to do something a little bit different. We had to do more than just build a company. We had to build a movement. And that's exactly what it is today. We have almost 900 people all around the world, most of them working in exchange for stock options. We have a community of over 60,000 people that crowdstorm with us, and over 40 companies that are bringing their technologies and their knowledge in the same way in exchange for participation in the company into this project. You hear about the Hyperloop now everywhere. There are several companies, several universities. It's exactly that. It's a movement. We have offices in Los Angeles, in Barcelona, so right here, we're actually home, in Bratislava, in Toulouse, where we're opening up our R&D center, and in Abu Dhabi. Some of the companies we partner with are literally the leading companies in their field. From Atkins Construction Engineering, which is one of the leading construction engineering firms responsible for the metro in Dubai, to Cabures, a Spanish manufacturer working for Airbus and Boeing and doing the capsule fuselages, to Leibold, the inventor of the vacuum pump, and many, many more. All right, but when? When are we going to see the first Hyperloop? That's probably the question that I get the most. People are always wondering, which is already good, because to be honest with you, at the beginning we always heard, is this even possible? You can't do this. Now we don't hear that anymore. We only hear when. So we have been quite busy over the last 4 years. We have been building technology, licensing technology. We have then done several contracts around the world with different governments, so that now we're ready to build. So version number 1 is ready. There's going to be a version 168 one day. Of course, you can always become better. And well, we actually put into manufacturing our world's first full-scale passenger capsule together with our partner Cabures here in Spain. The capsule is now being manufactured. It takes roughly a year, so the capsule will be ready by mid of next year. Then it will go to Toulouse for integration and assembly, before then going on the first commercial track, which we plan to announce over the next 6 months.